That's why I wanted to go to Iran. I had the opportunity to go to Iran a couple years ago. The Washington State chapter of the United Nations called me up and they said, you know, there's a lot of saber rattling and we're worried that there's going to be military action in Iran. What can we do to inspire our country to find an alternative to war? And I said, well, the only thing I can do is go there and make a TV show. And I said, but you know, I don't have the time to figure that out and I don't know how to get a visa. And I said, if you can get me a visa and permission, I will pay for it and I'll get the crew together, I'll write a script and we'll do it. And I think I can get it aired all over the country. And I thought that was the end of it. And then a week later they called back and said, I think we got a visa. So I thought, well, that's cool, we're gonna go to Iran. And I was afraid. You know, a lot of people say, weren't you afraid to go to Iran? Well, yeah, I was afraid to go to Iran. I didn't really know what it was gonna be like. We came this far from leaving our big camera in Athens and just taking our little camera in. Because I thought when they saw an American crew on the streets of Tehran, they'd be throwing stones at you, right? Thank goodness I had the nerve to go there with the big camera and learn about that society. I wanted to humanize 70 million Iranians. People ask me, why'd you go to Iran? I think one reason I went to Iran is because I firmly believe it's good style to know people before you bomb them. It sort of goes against our grain. It's better to dehumanize people before you bomb them, and then it doesn't hurt so much, right? But that, to me, that's just poor character. Sometimes you gotta kill people with your military, but you should know them. You should cry for them, I really believe. And when you go there, that happens. And then I really believe you're less likely to come to blows and find a peaceful alternative. Now, it's tough for an American to be in Iran because you got 8-story tall banners that are very hateful. That say, down with the USA, made with dropping bombs and skulls. That's no fun. What's an American to think when they're surrounded by hateful propaganda like that? Well, you talk to the people and you try to figure it out. Is this the people's will or is that propaganda put on them by a frightened government? You know, I don't know, it's complicated. Tehran is a big city, 14 million people, they say, in Tehran, 10 to 14 million people. A lot of traffic jams. I've never received such a warm welcome anywhere as when I was underneath those hateful banners. I remember being stuck in the traffic jam down here, just sitting in the back of our car, and the man in the next car asked my driver to roll down the window. He did one of these things. He handed over a bouquet of flowers and he said, give this to the foreigners in your back seat and apologize for our traffic. I thought, boy, that's awfully sweet. That's never happened to me in I-5 in Seattle. Later on, I was in another traffic jam, and our driver, it was very quiet for a long time, and suddenly our driver just blurted out, death to traffic. And I had like a double take, and I thought, what? I thought it was death to America, or death to Israel. And he said, no, right now it's death to traffic. And I said, well, what's with that? And he said, well, here in Iran, when something is frustrating us and out of our control, we say death to that. And I thought about that, and I thought, boy, that's a little more complicated than a bumper sticker, isn't it? And I thought, this guy doesn't speak English very well. He speaks Farsi. He's translating directly from a phrase they have in their country, which is probably literally damn. Damn this traffic. Damn America. Damn election fraud. Damn those teenagers. Have you ever thought, damn those teenagers? I have. Do I really want them to die and burn in hell for an eternity? No. It's just after midnight. Turn the music down. Damn those teenagers. Death to teenagers. It's a mistranslation. We don't understand the Farsi. Now that doesn't excuse them for being mean and whatever, you know, but at least we owe it to ourselves to look at it a little more thoughtfully than what's doled out to us with hysterical news coverage. It's a beautiful country, Iran. I have a whole talk on Iran that I give, but you can see it on the internet if you ever want to just Google it. And if you want to see the Iran show, you can see it on KSPS occasionally, or you can just Google it, or you can watch it on Hulu.com anytime you like. Just go to Hulu and type in Iran and Rick Steves, and you can watch it. But it was a thrill to be able to go to Iran. I'm so thankful that it was able to air it. And I'll tell you, it wouldn't have seen the light of day anywhere else on the dial. It was public television and only public television that would ever risk being a Jane Fonda mouthpiece for the enemy. And public television, I was just at the National Convention for the Programmers, and I know people wrote public television out of their wills because they aired this show. No advertiser would touch this show. But there's one little place in media that is so committed to the ideals of people's media, And the power of media is so strong in our society these days. I'm just appalled at how people don't get it. People would rather watch commercial television for the rest of their lives than put up with a couple of pledge drives, you know? And you just gotta understand what society would be like if corporations controlled all the media. They would have us. We need a public alternative, or we'll never humanize our enemies, I'll tell you that much. Now you go to a church like this, or a mosque like this, and it's very easy to make it look really scary. I remember standing there at this worship service thinking, man, I could, you know, cut in a few guerrillas jumping over barbed wire and lay on some jihadist music, and you got yourself one scary clip. Or I could spin it like, very much like my small town Lutheran church service. It's the same thing. The sermon lasts too long. People's cell phones are going off and they nervously turn it off. Little kids are pulling on their dad's fingers. Can't we go now? Everybody lines up and shakes the pastor or the cleric's hand afterwards. Everybody gathers in the narthex at the courtyard and tells stories and check in with each other. There's a lot of getting up and getting down, a lot of responsive readings, passing of the peace. It was a community worshiping. It was a community worshiping in a very difficult part of the world where you've got soldiers standing guard. I mean, it's just a poignant situation to go travel there. And what I realized in Iran is there's a lot of baggage. These people have a lot of baggage. Think of what baggage does for us. Think of 9/11. Think of Vietnam. Think of the Depression. This is all baggage that changes our viewpoints on things. We'd think differently if there wasn't a 9/11, you know? They'd think differently if there wasn't a Shah, or if there wasn't an Iraq-Iran war. The big baggage for Iranian people is the Shah and the Iran-Iraq war. More so, I think, the Iran-Iraq war, because they lost 300,000 people. That's a population of a quarter of ours. That would be like us losing more than 1 million people. When Saddam Hussein invaded their country, and they believe, as does the rest of the world, that the United States helped fund Saddam to invade their country. It was a horrific, like the Western Front in World War I, there between Iraq and Iran. And today, every small town has what's called a martyr's cemetery, a vast cemetery, and it's as lively with mourners today, 30 years later, as it was, as if the war was last year. And you go there and you realize, wow, a lot of people died fighting Saddam Hussein. And you see a widow weeping on the tomb of her husband or son or whatever. And you realize every week she goes there and cries and curses America. Now, she's a victim of propaganda. She's a victim of a war. She's a victim of American foreign policy. It's a very difficult thing. We might have been justified in funding Saddam to invade that country. I don't know what the deal was, but there's the human fallout that lives to this day that we have to deal with. I wanted to learn what makes these people tick. How can they elect a guy like Ahmadinejad? When Ahmadinejad says something crazy to us, is he talking to us, or is he what we would call shoring up his political base? He's elected by 50%. He's desperately shoring up his political base. His base is not the sophisticated cosmopolitan people in the big city, it's the small town people. Ahmadinejad's base is the small town, less educated, fundamentalist conservatives in their country. I had a woman walk across the street and do one of these things on my chest. She said, "Are you an American journalist?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I want you to go home and tell the truth. We're strong, we're united, and we just don't want our little girls to be raised like Britney Spears." I thought, whoa, neither do we, you know? And I just thought about that later, and it occurred to me, these people are motivated by the same thing their counterparts are here. These are caring people. They're small town, fundamentalist, poor, less educated people, motivated by the same thing their counterparts are here: fear and love. Fear and love. There's so much fear and there's so much love in that society. And the fear is really amazing. And you wonder why. You go there and you find out why. They're afraid of being invaded from the West. We did it once. We did it in 1953. We threw out their democratic elected prime minister because he nationalized their oil. We gave him a dictator that was friendly to us so we could get at the oil, the Shah. And he lived on the throne there, degrading women for a whole generation. It might not mean much to us, but for a whole generation, they lived with the offensive thought that their dictator was bragging that the miniskirts are shorter in Tehran than they were in Paris. That's fun if you're a big city person, but if you're one of those small town people, you want yourself a theocracy. You want to get out of that and whip to the other side. And thank God for Ayatollah Khomeini, you see. So it's a very interesting dynamic there. And when you travel there, you gain a much better appreciation of it. It's really interesting to me when you go to Iran, all the little insights you get into their society. For instance, I heard there were more nose jobs on women there per capita than anywhere else on the planet. And I thought, yeah, right. And I got over there, and sure enough, every block you'd see a woman recovering from a cosmetic surgery. And then I realized why. In Iran, women cannot show any shapes of their body, and they can't show any hair and no cleavage. A properly dressed woman is wearing like a sack with a neck bound up here and no hair showing. If you look at the woman giving the weather report on the TV, she's doing it just right. This is a naughty woman here who is wealthy and able to get away with murder, but normally they wouldn't show their hair. Right? So what they can show, their faces and their hands, are just beautiful, just ravishing. The eye contact is enough to just slay you, you know? And I'm a girl watcher when I'm traveling. I love to watch people, and I just think girls are beautiful to watch all over the world. And in Iran, after about 5 days, I realized I just stopped looking below the chin. There's never anything to see. And I'm just analyzing myself as an animal. And my eyes, after 1 week, I'd been retrained. I no longer looked below the chin. I looked right here for a little naughty hair falling out. And that was enough to just get you so excited. A little hair right here. And that's all they got. All they can do is show a little hair right there. This is a very, very promiscuous sort of dress. When you travel around Iran, all of your norms are shaken up. It's one reason I like traveling in countries far away. I'll never forget getting to know all these girls from a school group that was out on a field trip. I was going to take their picture, and I can still hear their teacher just yelling at them. And I didn't know the Farsi, but I'm sure what she was saying is, girls, this Western gentleman is going to take your photograph, and you look like a bunch of floozies. Now cover up your hair. And so they got their hair all figured out, and now we can get our picture. Okay. But it's a rich travel experience, and it was a very learning thing for me. By the way, if you do pick up the Travel as a Political Act, about a 40 or 50-page journal of my experience with more of these kind of stories is all in there. It's an important part of that book. Okay.